Hi everyone, it's Rax. I am so excited for Diablo 4. I have been following all the coverage this weekend with BlizzCon. I watched the opening ceremony, the demos, I watched all the streamers play the game, I watched all the developer Q&As and all the panels. So I wanted to compile a lot of the questions that we had into one video so we can learn a lot more about the game that's coming. Let's get started. So first of all, what is the endgame? Well, they announced that there will be many things to do at the end of Diablo 4, but the main thing that they showed us right now is the keyed dungeons. So as you can see on the right, you will find keys in the world, and they will have a rank, and the higher the rank, the harder it will be. We can assume the better the loot and the better the XP will be, along with an affix. And they showed us the lightning pulse, which was this little lightning orb that would follow you around. You couldn't kill it, you couldn't get away from it. That just made the dungeon harder. And that way it's going to change everything up. No key will be exactly the same, and you'll get to explore a lot of the world and have a lot of unique challenges. But as I said before, there will be other things coming. They mentioned that we will be able to dive down into the depths of hell, and they can't wait to show us that, so that'll be very exciting. And now, how does the itemization look? Well, at the glance of this chart, it looks very similar to the other Diablo games. We got normal, magic, rare, we've all seen that. Legendary in sets, and then ancient sets, that's the same, similar to Diablo 3. And then finally, a new type of item, which is mythic. So then, of course, we want to know, what is a mythic item? It's something that's unbelievably powerful, with multiple legendary affixes. These are probably going to be the hardest items to obtain, and they will likely not be tradable. So as you can see, if you'd like to pause the video, this mythic amulet has got a lot of amazing stuff on it, it looks like, for a barbarian. Now we're just going to get into a barrage of tons of questions that the community asked that the developers answered. So, first of all, will legendaries rain from the sky like in Diablo 3? They're not going to. In Diablo 3, you'd play and you'd just see legendaries everywhere. It really devalued that type of item. That's not going to happen in Diablo 4. And also, they mentioned the higher you progress, they're not going to increase the drop rate. Instead, they're just going to increase the quality of the items. So you're not going to be showered in millions of items to deal with. In my opinion, that is a tremendous improvement. Next, will sets be the most powerful like in Diablo 3? Because in Diablo 3, you get your set, you get your few multipliers for the one or two skills that you're using, and there's really no customization for the builds. And that's not going to happen in Diablo 4. They're going to tune legendaries and mythic items to be equal, if not better. That way sets will just be a stepping stone into getting the end game build for your character, and that will allow a lot more flexibility with the builds. What can you customize on your character? Simple answer is just about everything. The face, the hair, the skin, the eyes, the scars, the tattoos. You can customize your mounts, and they didn't have too much info on that for us at the moment, but mounts will be coming. You'll be able to customize how you look pretty much completely. Big question, what is the monetization and business model? It's going to be similar to the other Diablo games, where you just buy the game and you buy the expansions. Maybe there will be a downloadable content pack like the Necromancer pack, and there will be microtransactions that will be cosmetic, but they made it very clear they will never sell power in Diablo 4. To me, that's a very good model. I'm very happy with that. Can you play the whole game solo, and can you play it offline? You can play the game entirely solo. You don't have to do any of the social events, but you cannot play offline. So how will trading work? They haven't finalized the system yet, but the one that they like the best is with a 3-item or 3-class system. Common items and materials you can trade infinitely. Pretty good items you can trade once. So if you find, I don't know, a really good weapon, you're using it, and then your brother logs in and he really needs a weapon, you could trade it to him, and then it's bound to him forever, for example. Or bind on pickup, that will likely be how it works for mythics or maybe ancient legendaries and ancient sets or super rare crafting materials. You've got to find it yourself in order to have it. Will there be a paragon, or essentially an infinite scaling system? They said yes. And what they said was they like the idea that you can log in for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 1 hour and then get off of Diablo 4 and feel that you have made feel that you have made progress on your character. But it may not be the exact same system. Now, I know that this may sound very bad to people from hearing it for the first time, but there are ways that you could tweak the Paragon system that would make it much less severe, or would bridge the gap between the people who are 5,000 Paragon and the players who are 1,000 Paragon. One example is, instead of giving +5 main stat every time you get a Paragon level, you could just give +1. Okay? And that would devalue the infinite scaling of whatever system they come in, and it would put more emphasis on your skills and your items. So if this doesn't sound like the answer that you want, I'd say let's give it a moment. Let's see what system they come out. I'm sure that they will be up for feedback, and I'm sure they've gotten the feedback a million times that the Paragon system is out of control for those that just keep endlessly grinding. I think we're all in favor of not having to play the game for 20 hours a day in order to have a godly character. So let's see what comes of it. But they do like the fact of rewarding players for logging in every time that they come on. How will clans work? It's too early to tell, but they did mention that there should be a clan bank, which will help with trading, maybe storing materials, and there may be clan events. So how will runes and runewords work? Don't think of it exactly like Diablo 2, because it's not the same, and in my opinion, it doesn't quite sound as powerful. So there are two types of runes, condition and effect. You're going to take one of each type of rune, and when you put them together, it's going to make a rune word. But the rune word is going to be nowhere near as powerful as the typical ones that we're thinking of. It's not going to unlock this insane, unbelievable item with 20 affixes. Okay? But the nice thing about it is they mentioned that you can change how these runes and rune words work. For example, maybe the effect that you have is increased damage, but you just found a key for an extremely hard dungeon and you just can't survive. Well, you could trade that rune for, instead of damage, how about life on hit or life steal? That way you could stay alive. Or maybe the condition is every time that you stun an enemy, but you're going into a place where you can't stun enemies. So maybe you change it to whenever enemies are slowed. Okay? So there's a ton of different combinations, and it's not going to be outrageously overpowered like in Diablo 2. One big question, can you change your keybindings? Because they looked locked down in the demo. Yes, there will be a full elective mode. That's very good news. Will there be solo self-found? There are no plans to implement it right now, but that does not mean that if you don't ask for it a million times that they may implement it into the game. And will there be hardcore? They said, of course. It wouldn't be a Diablo game without the hardcore mode. And it will be the hardcore mode that we all know and love. If you die, you're gone. Another big question about Diablo 4, will it be balanced between solo and groups? They said that they will try to make it as even as possible, but inherently in these games, group play is usually more beneficial no matter how much they try to tune it to be even. And that's true because even in Diablo 3, for example, if they didn't have the strength and numbers buff and things like that, just the fact that with groups you can get a lot more of the buffs and things like that from other classes in general usually allows you to clear much higher. But they're going to try to balance it the best they can. Will there be an auction house? No. To me, that's very good news. Will there be crafting, and will it be important? Crafting will be a part of the game, but they did mention that they want Diablo 4 to be mostly about slaying monsters, so it probably won't be sitting in town crafting for 5 hours all the time. The main thing they want you to do is get out there and kill stuff. I'm okay with that. Will there be Transmog? They said it's being considered, but I'm going to be honest with you. So many people are going to be so triggered if Transmog is not in the game. I'm going to be shocked if Transmog isn't in the game. So I think that there will be. Will there be hideouts like in PoE? No, there will not. We'll gather up in the social hubs, in the towns, in the open world to interact with our homies. Will there be add-ons? It's not likely that any add-ons will be supported. Their philosophy was they would rather implement everything into the game that people need in order to play it. Now, things that I saw in the demo that made me hopeful that they're aware of some of the things that we want is when you would mouse over an elite, there seemed to be little icons that would indicate what affixes they have. Another thing about the game is the density of the monsters seemed to be smaller, so the gameplay seemed to be a little bit slower but more tactical. And I think that is better because then you won't need add-ons to tell you, where are the elites in this sea of 200 monsters and things like that. So I'm not upset about that answer at all, but I just hope that they can deliver on the promise that they're going to build everything into the UI and into the world that we need to play the game at a high level. How will PvP be balanced? They said that they would adjust certain skills, and in general, some skills may be good for PvP that aren't great for PvE. Like, for example, crowd control is usually incredible in PvP. But that there's more to come on that. They didn't give a super definitive answer on how they're going to be working on that. Another question is, how will potions work in Diablo 4? They mentioned it's an evolving system, and they don't like the fact that they're waiting 30 seconds on a timer. So they're exploring other options on how they can improve potions. So if you have any good ideas, go ahead and post it on the forums. Finally, what is the new stagger system? So world bosses have this new stagger system, and every time you hit them with a crowd control, it does not crowd control them. Instead, there's this bar that fills up, and when it gets all the way to the end, every boss is going to have a unique event that happens. For example, the giant bird-looking thing that the world boss that everybody was fighting, when that stagger system got full, her little arms would break off. I assume that the boss would become easier at that point. So the stagger system might be an interesting facet of Diablo 4 and these bosses, because maybe instead of dealing damage, it'll be more important to land as many CCs as possible to trigger that unique event to bring them to a different state to finally kill them. We'll have to see. So when we're out exploring, how are we going to actually find these world events to participate in? There will be notifications with their location, so you'll be able to find them quite easily. I'm going to assume there's going to be a way to disable these notifications in case you want to play solo, so you won't be bothered by them. So how many players are you going to actually see when you're out in the open? And they said it depends. So in the demo, when they're running around, doing their thing, you didn't see that many people, and the general consensus seemed to be that felt good. But once you step into the zone with a giant world boss, now all of a sudden you see a lot of people, and that makes sense, right? They're all helping you take down the boss. So it's going to depend. And I believe there are ways just to avoid people altogether, if that's what you want to do. But you shouldn't see people absolutely everywhere, while you're just going through the campaign or your regular stuff, unless there's a big event going on. How many players can play in a party? 4. That's not surprising, given that this is going to be put on console as well. Are loot drops individual? Yes, but if you drop an item on the ground, anybody can take it, as provided it's tradable, I'm assuming. Are my skill choices permanent? They are permanent, but I did hear that you can eventually max every skill by finding skill tomes in the world. And that, to me, I think is good. I think you should be able eventually to have everything maxed if you continue to play. That way you can play whatever build that you want. So I'm very happy with the way that they've laid that out. I don't really know what the benefit is of having it permanent. They could make it, an expensive respec if you accidentally made a big mistake. I don't want to have to farm skill tomes with a subpar build just to correct a mistake I've made. I'd rather pay some kind of penalty and fix it. But let's see how it actually works. It's a long time before it's released, but just my initial thoughts. Will there be seasons in Diablo 4? There will be, and the meta will change all the time because they plan every season to add new legendaries and to retune specific legendaries to make certain builds much more powerful. That way we're always playing something fresh versus in Diablo 3, I don't know how many seasons it's been in a row where rats have been the best XP and then the meta has been the same for who knows how long. Another big question, what are the final 2 classes on release? This is not known, or more likely just not revealed yet, but they did mention that they'd like feedback on the forums, so if there's one that you really, really want, make your voice heard. I've heard a lot of requests for Assassin, a lot of requests for Amazon, and a lot of requests for a new class. So those are the top 3 that I've been hearing in listening to all the BlizzCon stuff in the last few days. What is the anticipated release date? So Blizzard said, not soon, not even Blizzard soon. And translated into English, that means a long time. Okay? So I think an optimistic guess is that we could get it by the holiday of 2021. That's my prediction. I think we will get it in 2 years. But a lot of people feel that we are going to have to wait all the way until 2022. I really, really hope it won't be any longer than that, but I'm just trying to be honest with you guys. I'm going to optimistically guess we're going to get a holiday of 2021, and I would say getting it any earlier than that is really not going to happen. A lot of people have these theories that the fact that they're developing it for PS4 and Xbox One with the next-gen consoles is going to push it up sooner. But they mentioned that the reason that they're designing it for PS4 and Xbox One is because they don't even know the ship dates of the new consoles, and they need to be working on Diablo 4 right now. So I don't think it's for a reason that indicates a release date. I think it's for a reason that's all that they have to work on. Okay? And finally, are there any questions that I missed? I may have answers to more questions that I didn't post in this video. I just tried to spray all of the most important ones into this build. So if there's a question that you're dying to know, I may know the answer. Just ask the question in the comments. I'd be happy to answer it. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please subscribe. I will be covering everything about Diablo 4 until its release and playing it an unhealthy amount when it's finally here. And please come check me out on my stream. I stream every single day, and I'm streaming every day for 10 years. Thank you.